Okay, isn't this fun? Criticizing other people's work, it's great. So let's keep it going. Let's do a little more. Take a look at another one. So once again, exact same scenario. So here's our solution, and let's go through it. And I'm hitting this bang, bang, bang because my point is each piece that I've showed you, it wasn't as bad as the student thought it was. It really wasn't, even though it didn't look appealing yet. The great news in each of these cases is that it only took maybe 10% of subtlety and fine-tuning to take that thing that wasn't working yet into something that you're proud of, that you can put up on the wall and again tuck into your portfolio. So that's the truth of where we are here. Take a look at that hair. And remember how I just said that every line and every value must be designed to describe the underlying form. I have no doubt whatsoever that this model's hair really curved that direction. So let me use this opportunity to reiterate the point that goes beyond just modeling form. It isn't that you just observe and then recreate what you observe, carefully modeling the form that you see. We can go one step beyond of our saying of designing every line and every tone to describe the underlying form. We could go further to say it's okay to redesign selectively and artistically where is appropriate. That curve right there, I'm sorry, it's just killing the form. Even if it's really there, I tend to work it back around the other direction, as you see I've done here. So we haven't completely lost it. We still have suggestion of that curve going this other way, but what I've emphasized is the way that it wraps around the big form. Wrapping around the big form like this gives us depth, gives us body, gives us substance, gives us depth of field, gives you what you're looking for in a portrait that really stands up. His perspective was off. As carefully as he laid out his drawing, he missed that if the eyes are going in this direction, the nose and the mouth cannot mismatch like this. Sure, people have a small degree of asymmetry to their face. No one's face is necessarily exactly perfectly symmetrical, but close. But not like this, my friends, not like that. And so this is a drawing error that was corrected. And that's why you see the features, you see them feel like they're tipping so much. See how that mouth tips the far corner tips so far and it tips back into place here in the paint over? That's because of this perspective problem. In space, it's flipping back towards us rather than receding in space. So I reworked the subtlety of that edge so it receded in space for the depth of field. So I very much hope that helps. I hope this discussion helps you put the final polish on your portraits that you're looking for. So I encourage you to go back through this discussion that we've just had and take a second look at the before and after on these portrait studies, and then go back to your work, some of the work that you may have been a little bit frustrated with the finish of, and see where these principles might apply to improving your own work. And with that, what we're going to do now is we're going to go back in time 150 years and take a look at how the early efforts of photography teaches us a valuable lesson about creating a presentation in our portrait work that has compositional strength. This image is one of the earliest existing photographs of a person. There were photographs previous to this taken of people, but the chemicals used in those were so fugitive that they faded over time all the way down to zero. And so this is one of the earliest existing photographs of a person. And you'll notice, to have a look at it, it's two values only, very low resolution, very low information. It has a dark gray and it has a light. And I can imagine at the time people must have been quite amazed at the technological breakthrough that was photography. It must have been quite the novelty. But at the same time, remember that there were portrait artists who were doing work of this caliber. And I can only imagine that the early photographers getting results like this must have felt pretty insecure in the shadow of representations of people like this one in this portrait by John Singer Sargent, where I should say it this way, where the artist, John Singer Sargent, is completely in command and has at his fingertips every nuance of value and color. So the early photographers, fighting for acceptance, fighting to bring artistry and meaningfulness to their work, did the only thing they could do with their incredibly limited two-value palette. They turned to design. They turned to compelling composition. And there's a lesson in here for us. Because when we look at this image, this is another early photograph where the negative has been manipulated so that the photographer can subtly get a read on the silhouette of this guy. And that guy is pretty darn interesting. I can't speak for you, but I think it's likely you'll agree with me. The mystery of this image is compelling. I'm engaged by it. I love this image. It's utterly fascinating. It's fascinating because it draws us in and lets us fill in the gaps with our own imagination. We get to combine with the artist or the photographer and the creative process. We love that. So here's another one. How many times have we been in life drawing class, looked at a model like this one and said to ourselves, wow, look at the elegant profile of the model, the long neck. I'm really excited to draw her. This is an exquisite subject to try and capture her likeness. And then 2 hours later, we kind of stumble out of our stupor and realize that we've been mindlessly rendering individual bits of hair and individual highlights and details and contrasts and such. And having done that, lost the clearer, more elegant statement of that very same profile and long neck that was the thing that was most interesting with us in the beginning. Art has to be about something. And when you leave information out in favor of other information, art becomes about something. You have artistically made the decision by saying, what is interesting about my subject? I'm going to distill down what I see to that visual interest and edit out anything that might be distraction from it. Do you see then how this works perfectly, hand in hand with the challenges that we've been describing all term? We've been talking about and saying, oh my gosh, there's horrible challenges. I'm limited by time. I'm limited by my medium. I'm limited by my perception and misinterpreting the way that I see my subject. Every step of the way, there are all these limitations thrown on me, and I'm supposed to do something that is sophisticated. It feels impossible. That's the discussion that we've been having every week of the class. And this clenches it by showing that those limitations don't have to be the death of us. They don't even have to be a compromise. They can actually be turned to work in our favor. Those limitations actually can make artwork that is more compelling than if we had a greater and wider palette at our fingertips. And these dramatic, visually interesting photographs tell exactly that story. Because no one looks at this image and says something like, oh, look at the herringbone pattern and all of that outfit there. I wonder if that's wool that came out of the Scottish Highlands originally. No one asks that question. Everyone looks at this and says, who is this mysterious bohemian character? I want to know more. And if you do want to know more, I always try